Hello and welcome to this abridged version of Lunchtime Agenda. I'm David Lipson. We're going to go straight to our political panel today. Joining me is Labor MP Stephen Jones, Liberal MP Tony Smith. Thanks very much for your time, gentlemen. Let's start with the super trawler. We've had debate all morning on this. The opposition has decided not to support the government's legislation that would lead to a ban on the super trawler. It's leaving it up to the independents. It looks like Bob Katter, for one, will probably, looking at what he said previously, go with the government on this one. I want to ask you first, Tony Smith, there's been some different views expressed in the coalition, a special meeting this morning. What's your position?
Oh, look, we've got a single position, which is there is no doubt this is policy on the run. We, of course, want to see good fisheries management. The reason this issue has arisen is because the Minister himself invited this trawler to be considered as part of the government's own fisheries management. Our concern is with the response. The response is a complete overreach that would affect every fishery in Australia. And what our spokesman Greg Hunt's made very clear is he's happy to talk with the Minister about specific issues to deal with the Fisheries Act, but the idea that you'd have this policy on the run, this panicked approach that we've become used to under Labor, that would affect every single fishing industry around Australia, where the Minister could act without restraint where he sees social concerns or social reasons.
So the real problem, according to Greg Hunt as well this morning, is that the coalition feels that the legislation goes too far to solve what is a legitimate issue of concern surrounding the super trawler. Stephen Jones, you've got a coastal electorate around Wollongong. Can you really assure your voters that this legislative change won't be used to ban, for example, fishing, other fishing activities on bluefin tuna or something like that?
That's a preposterous suggestion. What we've got here, and this super trawler event has shone some light on a gap in the law. We thought that the Environment Minister would have had sufficient power to act to restrict the sorts of trawling activities which have a big threat to the environment. The size of these nets, they're able to encircle the Sydney cricket ground more than once. So we're talking about a significant change in the way fishing is done off our waters. I'm surprised that the opposition is opposing this, given the brouhaha that they raised when we tried to put in place marine parks around the country, allegedly in support of recreational fishers. Well, there is nothing that could be greater in the interest of recreational fishing than these provisions which ensure we have the capacity to responsibly manage our fishing stock.
Okay, we've got a bunch of issues to get through, so I'm going to keep moving. We had another important vote.
I won't refer to the Act that I've got in front of me. Okay. I won't refer to his...
Apologies for that, but I want to talk about another important vote today. It went through the Senate, the approval of Nauru for offshore processing. I don't want to go into the old attack lines about who's right and who's wrong, but this really comes down to the question now of who will be sent to Nauru. That's a decision that has to be made by the Immigration Department along with the Immigration Minister, Stephen Jones. Who should go? I mean, Chris Bowen hasn't ruled out unaccompanied children, women being sent to Nauru without any sort of government assurance that they'll be okay, I suppose.
If you want to put in place a system which ensures that women and children aren't stacked onto those terrible fishing boats by people smugglers, then you've got to ensure there's no blanket exemptions. So that is the reason behind the Minister's decision that there will be no blanket exemptions. Now, there may be some cases, as there were under the previous government, where for health or other reasons we need to move people from one place to another. But what we will not do is up front put in place a blanket exemption.
Is it worth putting the well-being of children at risk to send a strong message?
What should happen with Nauru is what happened before. What happened before with Nauru worked, but the point we've made is that Nauru on its own is not enough if you want Howard government outcomes. Howard government outcomes that stop the boats also, of course, included temporary protection visas and the willingness to tow boats back when you're able to do so in a safe manner. Now, we've made that point. Nauru has worked before. It can work again. Any of the logistical issues can be dealt with as they were dealt with before.
Okay, well, moving on, the Queensland budget, it was pretty tough yesterday. Campbell Newman trying to haul the government back into surplus as quickly as he possibly can, and to do it he's, well, cutting a lot of public servants and also putting up mining royalties. Let's just hear, first of all, from Campbell Newman. He spoke today about some protests that are taking place. The unions have organised them. This is the Queensland Premier.
These rallies were announced, if memory serves me correct, about 6 weeks ago. The Together Union said they were going to have a rally. The Queensland Council of Unions said there would be a rally on the 12th, weeks ago. It didn't matter what the government did in terms of the budget. They were still going to have a rally. And I just say that we want to work with them cooperatively. Nothing is going to change the situation. We have to make these important decisions rather than put taxes up on families.
So he says that he wants to work cooperatively with the unions, but he won't be budging as well. I want to ask you, Tony Smith, politically probably smart for Campbell Newman to push this through as early as possible, put as much distance between these tough decisions and the next election. But will this or could this hurt the coalition federally in the election that's going to come much closer?
Look, what Campbell Newman's doing is the responsible thing to try and get the budget back into surplus. Now, let's just have a look at what the fiscal facts are in Queensland. They've got their debt, their state debt, headed towards $100 billion. After this budget, I think the projected deficit next year is about $10 billion. And they found themselves with a very difficult situation. They've had Wayne Swan and Penny Wong defending cuts they've had to make. And what did they inherit? They inherited a fiscal situation that had them in surplus by $20 billion with $45 billion in the bank. Now,
according to the polls, though, these tough decisions that Campbell Newman is making are hurting him in Queensland to an extent. Could that spill over to the federal
Well,
arena?
look, we're not here to commentate on the politics. He's trying to fix the fiscal mess that Labor created. And all we hear from the Labor Party, after running up debt year after year and creating this fiscal nightmare, is the debt train should continue. I mean, the Labor Party are the debt escalation party.
Stephen Jones, I'll get a response to that.
Two things. Politically stupid, but economically wrong. I mean, Campbell Newman is the only Premier in Australia who thinks they've got too many doctors and nurses. Sadly, not the only Premier in Australia who thinks they've got too many school teachers, because Barry O'Farrell's setting about slashing their budget as well. But the real thing is here, economically stupid, because when the economy on the eastern seaboard is doing it tough, the wrong thing to do is to be pulling the sort of money out of the system that Campbell Newman is supposed to be doing. What is the problem with their budget? Their royalties, their mining royalties have plummeted because half their coal mines are underwater after the floods. That will pick up again. The wrong thing to be doing at this point in the economic cycle is pulling billions of dollars out of the Queensland economy. If there is a spike in unemployment, or if Queensland falls into a recession, people will know who to blame. It'll be Campbell Newman.
So they're putting up the royalties. That will be passed on to the mining companies. They will then pass it on to the federal government under the MRRT deal. Wayne Swan's threatened then to pass it back to Campbell Newman through not passing on GST revenue. Will he keep that promise that he will match it dollar for dollar, that he won't hand on that money?
Let's talk about the difference between royalties as a form of taxation and our profits-based tax. Royalties tax inputs, so whether the mine is making a profit or not, the government takes a slice. It's a tax on jobs. Our tax, the MRRT, is a tax on profits, supernormal profits. So if you are making exceptional profits, then the government takes a slice of that. What Campbell Newman is doing, economically stupid, a tax on jobs, and putting another burden on those mines that are already struggling.
So he will be slow.
There will be no net benefit. There will be no net benefit.
So what are you saying? What should he do with the budget deficit? He should do no cuts at all?
Absolutely not, Tony. What he should be doing is he should. I'm sure there is room where he can make some efficiencies, but slashing 14,000 jobs is not the answer when the economy is already struggling. What he should be doing is working with those coal mines in his state to ensure we're pumping water out of the coal mines to make sure they're coming back into economic production. That'd be a much better thing for him to be doing with his mines.
Just a very quick response to Tony Smith. We've only got 30 seconds. You've got to get to question time.
Well, you've just heard it confirmed. The Labor Party's solution after running up debt is run up more. You know, just
Absolutely
keep running up debt. There's
You
not
were
no-
the highest taxing government
Oh,
in Australia's
come on.
history, and that has been proven time and time again. The
We've
tax
got-
to GDP ratio under your government, Olympic. Tony.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, look,
not even you believe that.
you've got about 25 seconds to get down to the House of Representatives. Thanks for your time today.
We'll run together.
Thanks for your company on Lunchtime Agenda. David Spears this afternoon will be speaking to Peter Costello, the former Federal Treasurer, about some comments that he's made today about Question Time. He has likened it to something of a horror movie. He wants to see more humour injected into Question Time. We'll see how things pan out in today's session of Question Time, which is getting underway in the House of Representatives about now. Thanks very much for watching.
Has concluded